bunch of dancing, bunch of Britney Spears songs, and everybody gets a bracelet. Why is that? Let's Chicle Chat about it.
Chicle!
Welcome to Season 7 of Chicle Chat. It's your boy Chicle. For the first time in 3.5 years, we are officially bringing back Broadway review videos. That's right, last week I flew out to New York. I got to see 8 musicals when I was there. So we're gonna review 8 musicals and we're gonna do one every single Friday. So from today until around maybe October 13th or October 20th, we are gonna be reviewing every single show that we saw on Broadway. And to start things off, we are gonna be doing our first Broadway review video on Once Upon a Mattress. Wait, no. We're doing a Broadway review video on One More Time. I literally skipped the first half of the name. We're doing a Broadway review video on Hit Me. Oh my gosh. And today we're gonna be doing a review on Once Upon a One More Time. Finally, I got the title right. I don't know why that was so hard. So before we go ahead and review the show, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. We are halfway to 1,000 subscribers. And also let me know in the comments below, did you see this musical? And if you did, what did you think about it? Well, we're gonna go through a little bit of a summary and then we're going to review the show. So without further ado, let's go. Once Upon a One More Time features an original story written by John Hartmere that flips the script on your favorite fairy tale icons. The ultimate revisionist fairy tale for anyone who yearns to feel stronger than yesterday, Once Upon a One More Time weaves the chart-topping anthems of the princess of pop herself, Britney Spears. This new musical is playing at the Marquee Theater on Broadway until its recently announced closing date, which is Sunday, September 3rd. Now, despite the fact that this musical is closing next Sunday, we're still going to go through everything with this musical. Just note that this was choreographed and directed by Keone and Mari Madrid, and that the music is by Britney Spears, and the person who wrote the book was John Hartmere. Let's go ahead and talk about the music first. Obviously, there are some Britney Spears songs, because it's a Britney Spears jukebox musical. Now, although I'm not like the huge fan of Britney Spears, I feel like the music was specifically written for a fairy tale or for a princess. I don't know if it's like a coincidence that like Britney Spears decided to do that because she kind of lived in a fairy tale back in the 1990s with all the popularity of her music and stuff. It just felt super fluid. The songs that were picked for every character, especially Prince Charming for Oops, I Did It Again, and then the stepmother singing Toxic, and then the entire cast singing Crazy and Hit Me Baby One More Time. It was really well smoothed out and it was perfect. The choreography was actually really fire. There were some male dancers that I was very impressed with. I really felt their energy. And then you also have the princesses doing their choreography, and then not to mention that almost every girl in the ensemble have their own princess character, like Gretel, the Princess and the Pea, Sleeping Beauty, etc. And they have their own personalities and stuff, so it's really awesome to see the choreography highlight different personalities from every single character in this musical. The prop usage and the staging was actually really magical. It's like you wanted to walk into a giant storybook because you're in for a huge story, and it's actually really cute. It's the story that is actually pretty simple. It's about a character, which is Cinderella. She's the main character of this story, who pretty much wants to have her own happily ever after, or at least change something different about her story. Because although it's a popular story of the princess who wants to go out to the ball and she loses her slipper, and her and Prince Charming live happily ever after, she's sick and tired of the same routine and she wants to kind of flip the script, but there's a lot of conflict because the narrator is the one that's trying to keep the tradition of the stories that's been told for centuries. So there's a lot of conflict of keeping the story the same and keeping these, making things kind of different. So there was a lot of conflict, and you can definitely emphasize on both ends. And it was actually really kind of interesting. Now let's talk about the cast of this musical. I specifically watched this on Saturday, August 19th during an evening performance. So not everybody in the original cast has performed their actual roles. So we're gonna go through each character as we go along. We also have Briga Helen, who plays Cinderella. She is the main character. You can see that she is somebody who just kind of like breaks out of society to try to make change happen, because she is starting to be like brainwashed into telling the same story over and over again. You can tell that she's really trying to break out of it really hard, because she's super charmed with Prince Charming. She's very conflicted because she doesn't want to be erased from reality by the narrator. Yeah, you could tell that she's going through a lot, and then she's trying to like warn other princesses about it. Not to mention, this actress is making her Broadway debut, so it was really awesome to see her perform for the very first time on Broadway, seeing her character development throughout the entire thing. Next up, we have Justin Guarini. Sorry if I like pronounce these names incorrect. I'm very unfamiliar with some of these actors, but he plays Prince Charming. You know, the typical handsome guy who gets the girl at the end. He's usually like the star of the show, Mr. Perfect all the time. He can be a little bit of a troublemaker, and he wants things to stay the same every single time, and he can be a little bit selfish here and there, but I mean, some guys are like that. I don't know, I feel like when he's like dancing alongside with the other princes, it's like watching a royal NSYNC concert. I really like how he can be very comedic at sometimes, although that he could be a jerk sometimes. You could tell, like, you can emphasize, like, you know, he's trying to do the right thing. He's trying to do what the narrator says and stuff like that, but yeah, I really liked him in the musical and like here and there. Jennifer Simmert was the stepmother. Usually a villain is someone that you dislike, but this villain was very empathetic. She's the one that like even convinces the narrator, like, yeah, we need to make some changes. We need to kind of spice things up. She made some jokes about the Grimm tales, because the Grimm brothers tell very dark fairy tales that like you wouldn't tell kids today about like death and stuff like that. So the references for that, and then wanting to change the story alongside with Cinderella so that she could selfishly have the girls get the Prince Charming, was actually really amazing. I loved it when she's saying toxic. She like took over the spotlight with that routine, and she was just really funny. I enjoyed her a lot. Adam Godley was the narrator. I like his body language. I like how he's always saying happily ever after every single sentence. I never knew that he would be part of like the antagonist part of the story, because again, he is somebody that is trying to keep everything in order. He wants every story to be told the same way, just to entertain every single child that reads a book. And it's like, you know, he's doing his job, but he does it in a way that it's like happily ever after. So like, I don't know. I love when he says happily ever after every single time. Brooke Dillman as OFG. If you don't know what OFG stands for, it stands for Original Fairy Godmother. And it's like, I don't know if it's a coincidence that it's like OMG. Yeah, I don't know. OFG just sounds so funny. She was amazing. She was like the comic relief overall. She's the one that kind of brings up like the women's rights stuff and everything when she's trying to give a book to Cinderella to read, to open her mind that like, oh my gosh, a woman wrote that book. And then like all this other stuff. I thought that was actually really clever. She's just really enjoyable when she is on stage. And the, what is that number? It's called Scream and Shout. I thought it was interesting, but I liked it nonetheless. Snow White is normally performed by Asia Jackson, but for this performance, it was performed by Lauren Zachrin, who, if I'm getting this right, normally would be playing Little Mermaid. I thought that she was very bubbly and like very sweet and like very innocent. She's the one that's just kind of like, ha ha ha, you know, like, I'm going to get hunted by the huntsman, and like, oh, I'm gonna eat an apple. Like, it was just so funny, because like, you know how Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs go. Once you know like all the princesses from like Disney and like this and that, it's like, you know their stories because it's been told many times. So the fact that you're able to like get the references from like the book, it's just so well clever. And I love the chemistry between Cinderella and Snow White. You have the one side that's like very serious, and you have like the bubbly side, so like those opposites attract and stuff. It's well written. I love it that way. It was awesome. The stepsisters, Belinda and Bethany. I don't think those are their actual names, or is it just their names for this musical? Let me know in the comments below. I didn't research this enough, because I think in the Disney movies, Their names are different. There is one song that they both sing in Act 1. I'm not gonna give it away, but it just works so perfectly when it comes to like the encountering with Cinderella in the story. It was just perfect. I loved it. Those two might have been like here and there, but that's because that's their personalities. That's their character traits. They're supposed to be obnoxious. They're supposed to be annoying. They're supposed to be funny in a way. They're supposed to like fight with each other. It's amazing. Bethany was performed by Tess Soltau, I think. And then you also have Belinda, played by Amy Hilner Larson. Little Mermaid, played by Celicia Thomas. She normally would be playing a different character, but I think she's like an understudy or a swing. Yeah, she's a swing and understudy in the musical for the production. So she filled in for Little Mermaid when the actress who originally plays Little Mermaid was playing Snow White. I know, it's very confusing because of the reference of like the sea witch taking her voice and she can't speak. The physical comedy body language was just perfect because she doesn't have any lines. And so she just like uses her body language and like, you know, sign language, and it was just perfect timing. Comedic timing was perfect and stuff. And then you also have Prince Eurydice, played by Ryan Steele, and then you have Clumsy, performed by Nathan Levi. There's like a secondary couple going on with these two. I'm not gonna explain too much, but one's a prince and one is a dwarf. That's all I can say. Now, of course, there are tons of princesses and princes with names on there, but I'm just gonna leave it right over there. Now, sadly, a couple days after I did see this on Broadway, Playbill has announced that they were closing on September 3rd, meaning that it would be 123 performances, which is really not a lot. And the fact that it was during the summertime where there's a huge amount of tourism, I was shocked because when I was there that night, there were a ton of people. Like, I thought it was almost a sold out show, and everybody seemed like they were having a really, really great time. So I think the only reason why this musical is closing is simply because of the revenue, that they weren't making enough money as they were planning to. Maybe because some people were not fans of Britney Spears. I mean, I'm not a fan, but I still enjoy this musical because of the storytelling and the comedic timing and the amazing fire of some choreography. So overall, I give this musical an 8 out of 10. I thought it was amazing. I'm very sad that this musical was not going to be running any longer. I was expecting it to close, but I wasn't expecting it to close this early. Again, I think it's just because it wasn't making enough money in general. So that's it. Oh, and then there's a bracelet and it lights up, and the ushers give it to you before you come on, to the theater to sit down. Now, why is that the case? Well, you're just gonna have to go to New York, buy a ticket, and find out yourself. And ladies and gentlemen, that is our first Broadway review in over 3 years. I'm so happy that I'm doing this again for a limited time. We'll be back next Friday for another Broadway review video. I'm going to be posting on Instagram on a poll on which musical that you want me to do next. That's right. We're only going to pick a musical based on your votes and participation, because we did see 7 other shows. I wish we would have saw more, but we can only see what we can see for a limited time. But thank you so much for watching. We will see you guys for another Broadway review video. Peace out.